Hey Don, tell us about the racing scene in Maine and in New England. What are some of the trends?
Yeah, you know, it's pretty interesting. We're almost a victim of too many races.
Wow.
You almost hate to say that,
great
but
news. Yeah.
What you can
true,
race
though, yeah.
every single weekend, and you're starting to see a little bit of a shakeout. You're seeing, you know, the events that have, or the races that have turned into events that can cater to the family, I think are the ones that are going to succeed.
Right.
But if you look, you know, Maine in general, just in the last 3 to 4 years, look at what's happened. Scarborough, you know, we get 100 people there on a Sunday when it's raining and 40 degrees. I mean, that's phenomenal.
I know.
You look at Bondbrook that happened a couple weeks ago, just an awesome race.
This is mountain bikes.
Mountain bikes.
Okay.
You got Rangeley Tophet now, a gravel race going on up in Rangeley in September.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's going to be a really fun event. There's a couple cross races that have popped up. You know, John Grenier does Pinelands, which is always a, you know, been a staple on the. So I think Maine is coming along, and I think New England in general, you just have a ton of opportunities. But as you look, I think what you're going to see is the guys that put on an event, and I think this is why cross is so successful. Mm-hmm. You go to Gloucester and you watch what Paul Boudreau puts on. I mean,
it's a party, right?
It's a party, and with a race going on, and you know the families can go there, and it's just a great atmosphere. Where you see that, it's a win. Mm-hmm. Look what Peter Voller says with Overland. You know that race sells out like that, and it's you know it's an unbelievable event. You finish, you get fed like kings,
right.
And people go because the thing about gravel, there's going to be the 50 or 100 that go really race it.
Yeah,
and then you got another 800 that just out to challenge themselves. I mean, Ratsputis, I do that every year, and every year I say at the end, I'm never going to do it again, and I sign right back up. Because it's a phenomenal event. I mean, they just, it's literally, when you go up there, I mean, Ratsputis in general just blows me away with how well you can put on an event in northern Vermont in the spring, in April, and just knock it out. So I think that's what we're going to see.
Could we do something like that in Maine? I mean, we got plenty of territory up there. We could pull off.
We do, and I think there's some opportunity. I think the challenge is schedule at this point. I mean, we literally, like fat bike racing this winter, we had too many races. I mean, we had 3 on one weekend, and I did ours by accident. I did it right on top of Sugarloaf. It wasn't intentional, and then I was like, oh man, I already printed everything up and advertised. So I think there's absolutely an opportunity. Like, I'd love to see Rangeley Tophet, the gravel ride up in Rangeley, take off, because it's a good opportunity. People in September have started to turn the cross gears. Right. But, you know, a really beautiful foliage ride up there, and you know, really killer roads. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's going to happen. I see, you know, Matt Reynolds up at Titcomb knocking out of the park, Chris Riley, and you just look at, you know, the Scarborough series. I mean, Down East putting that on. I feel so privileged to be able to come down and race and be home at noon. It's like, that's phenomenal for me. So,
well, but the road scene is still in Maine. There's the Yarmouth Clam Festival, which is a circuit race, and then there's the Maine Time Trial Series, which is again another, I think, one of the best kept secrets in Maine cycling, just because it's an opportunity to get out there and practice time trials. But there are no longer any point-to-point road races, or I mean, I have this idea of taking Bike Maine and turning it into the Tour of Maine. But you know, I've been talking about that for a couple of years, and it's never going to happen. But is there an opportunity to do more road racing, or is really road racing, you know, dead and it's not happening?
Well, I think the challenge is, and you'll hear people complain about the cost of road fees, but to go and close down roads and get all the support is expensive. And you know, I tell people, go stand in a promoter's shoes one time, and you'll learn a lesson. I don't know if you may recall, years ago, Belgrade's had a stage race. And it was awesome. It was phenomenal. But they had to shut down the roads in a premier part of Maine for a few hours every day, and I think the logistics just outstripped it. But that event, for a couple of years, you know, there was 1,000 people that went up there and did it. Wow. And it was extremely well run. So I think there's a definite opportunity. And you know, as I transition into my next chapter of life, I'm gonna throw my energy into something like that, because I think Bethel in particular has the opportunity, because we bridge the area that heads into the roads less traveled. So you have to get out of the populated areas to be able to get that done. And yeah, I think there's a good opportunity, but you have to make it an event. You have to give it something that gets people there. And this is why I think crit racing, if you went to, yesterday we were at Longjo, and the day before in Leominster. I mean, Leominster and Beverly on Thursday, the town said, hey, they let the bars operate out on the sidewalk. In the Atomic Cafe, you had 200 people standing out there in the rain cheering on crit racers.
Wow.
And so you just got to have the mindset of the event and bringing families into it, and then I think you have a winner.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, let's keep brainstorming and make something happen.
Sounds good.
That's great, Don. Thanks so much. That was Don Seib of Barker Mountain Bikes. We'll talk to you again soon.
All Things Bike with Fred Thomas is brought to you by Zentis, performance carbon wheels handmade in Austria for road and off-road riding. Zentis, next generation wheels. And Frame and Wheel eBay bike selling services. Time, space, cash. Pick 3. And AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling and the bike company of the future.